Bach's Goldberg Variations by Anna Harwell Silenzia, illustrated by Joanne E. Kitchell. On a cold autumn morning in 1737, Count Kieserling sat in a wooden pew at St. Mary's Church in Gdansk, Poland. The Count's best friend and music advisor, Johann Sebastian Bach, had brought him there, promising a special treat. "What in the world do you expect to show me here?" asked the Count, shivering. "All I see is a draughty church with a few old parishioners." Bach pointed to the organ loft above. "There he is. I knew he would come. This is what we have been waiting for." The Count looked up as a 10-year-old boy sat down in front of the organ. Within minutes, waves of glorious music poured down from the pipes above. "Who is that young man?" whispered the Count, impressed. "His name is Goldberg," replied Bach. "Johann Gottlieb Goldberg." "He has talent," said the Count. Bach noted. "He is good, but not as good as he could be. It is a pity he will never get the training he needs." "What do you mean?" asked the Count. "Why not? Goldberg is an orphan," said Bach. "He has no one to take care of him." "Then I shall take care of him," declared the Count, proud of himself for being so generous. "I have been looking for someone to polish my silver and help in the kitchen. I will give him a position at the court. There he will be able to earn his keep, and in his spare time he can play the harpsichord in my salon." Bach did not say anything at first. He had hoped the Count would take the young Goldberg under his wing, but not as a houseboy. "Since you are being so generous," said Bach, "I will make an offering as well. Each time I come visit at your court, I will give the boy a music lesson." "Splendid," said the Count. "It appears we have both done our good deed for the day." So Goldberg went to work at the Count's palace in Dresden. Every morning and evening he helped in the kitchen, and in the afternoons he spent hours polishing the Count's silver. There was little time for music, but Goldberg was not discouraged. He knew his new music teacher, Mr. Bach, gave Goldberg lessons 3 or 4 times a year. Mr. Bach was very kind to him. Goldberg was determined to become a great musician, and he tiptoed into the salon every night and practiced the harpsichord, while the Count Kieserling slept. Life continued on like this for several years, but then in 1741, Count Kieserling began having stomach pains. He found it hard to sleep, and he lay in bed one night. He thought he heard music coming from the salon. Who could be here playing at this time of night, he wondered. Goldberg was so absorbed in his music that he never heard the tap, tap, tap of approaching footsteps. The door slowly opened with a creak. Goldberg stopped playing and cautiously turned around. "Count Kieserling, sir, what are you doing here?" he asked. "I should ask the same of you," said the Count. "It is terribly late." "Yes, sir, I know, but I need to practice," said Goldberg. "Late night is the only time I have for my music. I hope I did not disturb you." "Quite the contrary," said the Count. "I was tossing and turning when I heard you playing. It is good to know someone else is awake. Continue practicing. I'll stay and listen." Goldberg grew nervous. He wanted to impress the Count. He played a lively dance tune. The Count tapped his toes. "Quite nice," said the Count. "Now let me hear you more. Play something that makes your heart pound and your fingers race. Play something really difficult." "I'm sorry, sir. I don't know any pieces like that," said Goldberg. Then learn one, said the Count. I'll be back in a week. Goldberg searched through his music and found a piece that made his heart pound and his fingers race. He knew the Count would be pleased. He practiced every night. When the Count returned at the end of the week, Goldberg was ready. He played his new difficult piece. The Count furrowed his brow in concentration. "Quite nice," said the Count. "Now, let me hear you play something complex, clever, and fun. Play me a musical canon." "A canon?" asked Goldberg. "Yes, you know what I mean," said the Count. "One of those pieces that goes round and round, where one hand begins and the other one follows." "I'm sorry, sir, I don't know any pieces like that," said Goldberg. "Then learn one," said the Count. "I'll be back in a week. And forget about the silver. You should spend the afternoons practicing." Goldberg searched through his music, but he couldn't find a piece with everything. He stayed up late and tried to compose, but he couldn't write a piece with a canon and a riddle that was dance-like and difficult and fun. Finally, in a desperate state, he went to Bach for help. "The Count wants a piece with everything," cried Goldberg. "What am I going to do?" Bach opened the cabinet and pulled out a thick folder of music. "Not to worry," he said calmly. "I have written just the piece." Goldberg stared at his teacher in awe. "How could you have written a piece with everything?" he asked. "I just took a simple tune, an aria to be exact, and changed it every time," he said. Bach, as he sat down at the harpsichord, he began to play a slow, lyrical melody. "This tune is called the theme," said Bach proudly. "Listen carefully and you will hear it change." As Bach continued to play, the same theme disappeared and a lively dance tune took its place above the harmony. "This is called Variation 1, said Bach. "Variation 2 is fast and furious." The old man's fingers raced across the keyboard. Goldberg's eyes grew wide. "Variation 3 is a canon," said Bach, slowing down again. "One hand begins and the other one follows." Bach played on and on. "Variation 4 is a dance called the Pied. Variation 5 is terribly difficult. In Variation 6, a new canon appears. Variation 7 is called a dance. It's like a gig. Variation 8 makes the fingers fly. Variation 9 goes round and round." It seemed there was no end to Bach's special composition. Each variation was a new invention that lined up after the others in a clear, repetitive pattern. Dance, difficult, canon. 10, 11, 12. Dance, difficult, canon. 13, 14, 15. On and on the piece continued. Goldberg thought it would never end. "What about the riddle?" he interrupted. Bach stopped playing. "The riddle?" he asked. "Oh yes, of course. The riddle comes in Variation 30. I took some silly folk tunes and mixed them all together. See if you can figure it out." Goldberg listened carefully as Bach began to play again. Recognizing one of the tunes, he sang the words out loud. I have been away from you so long." Then he recognized a second tune and sang, "Cabbage and beets have I driven away." Bach stopped playing. "Good job," he said. "You have found the clues. Now, tell me if you can solve my musical riddle." Goldberg thought for a moment. "What has been gone for a very long time, driven away by vegetables?" All at once it came to him. He took a seat next to Bach and quickly flipped the music back to the opening page. The answer to your riddle is the theme, cried Goldberg triumphantly as he played the aria from the beginning of the piece. The theme is the meat of your composition. It sustains the whole work, and now it has been gone for a long time, for 30 full variations. Bach laughed approvingly at his student's quick wit, and then joined him in playing the final phrase of the piece. When they were finished, Bach closed the music and handed it to his student. You may borrow it if you like. Goldberg returned to the palace with a special composition in hand. He knew the Count would be pleased. He practiced every morning, and every afternoon, and every night. When the Count returned at the end of the week, Goldberg was ready. He played Johann Sebastian Bach's dance-like difficult piece with its follow-me canons and musical riddle. The Count tapped his toes and furrowed his brow. He was thrilled, and he chanted with a glee. "Magnificent!" roared the Count. "The perfect piece." And from that day forward, Goldberg spent every hour practicing his music. Count Kisserling appointed him the court's official harpsichordist, and whenever he couldn't sleep, he would call into the night, "Goldberg, play your variations!" And that's how Johann Sebastian Bach's Goldberg Variations got its name.